used to spend every summer at this wonderful cabin on this lake and walk out to the beach with my family. And here in Bannon are these great tide pools that happen because of these rock formations. And so I would, you know, poke at the anemones and look at all the really cool patterns and textures that were happening with the sea creatures, and, you know, watch the barnacles open and close, and worms and funny things happening down there, and shrimp that were burrowing down. And I was just always intrigued with this other world that was happening. And a lot of my artwork in my later life, I think, was really about that. One day, I remember I was walking by myself in this one area on the beach, and I reached down and I picked up this thing that I was sure was a bone, and I looked at it, but it didn't feel right. It was like, this is too heavy to be a bone. Something's wrong with this. The shape looked like a bone, and it was weathered like a bone, and the texture seemed right, but the weight was wrong. And it was, so I turned it around, and I just stopped, and I saw this imprinted writing that was like worn away on the side of it. And it was at that moment there was this really gut-wrenching kind of punch in the stomach of, oh my God, this is plastic. And I remember thinking at that moment, I remember really thinking that plastic has been in the ocean so long that it's starting to look like bone.
I think we've turned the ocean into a plastic soup irretrievably. These plastic particles that populate the entire ocean realm in a matter of degree rather than presence or absence are not removable. I mean, whether your cutoff point is 10,000 pieces per square kilometer or 1,000,000 pieces per square kilometer, it's a plastic soup. I mean, there's thicker parts of the soup and thinner parts of the soup, but you're going to find plastic in the ocean environment in every realm.
Well, mostly what I work on is plastic in these in the North Pacific, which is actually a series of currents that concentrates plastic in this big calm pool in the middle of the ocean.
The oceans of the world have deserts, and these high-pressure systems that create these deserts are what we call the gyres. There's one in the Indian Ocean, there's two in the Atlantic, and two in the Pacific, north and south of the equator.
So this plastic actually comes from all around the Pacific Rim and from marine sources, but is concentrated there into the middle of the ocean by these just naturally occurring ocean circulation patterns.
The rotation is what creates the gyre. The gyre is a rotational current created by the atmospheric forces and the continental boundaries.
In 1999, Algalita published its first paper on this issue, finding what doesn't sound like a very high density, but 0.02 grams per meter squared of ocean. But if you multiply that across the entire area of a gyre, it adds up to a lot of waste. So since 1999, since that first published paper, I've been back to the gyre 8 times, and every time we find the density is increasing.
But the really shocking thing that we found out there was that once you get out into the North Pacific subtropical gyre, we got plastic consistently, and every time we put our net into the water. And that is very unusual in the natural world. Like, having something that is that consistent really strongly implies that there's just a lot of it. So now we know there is just a huge amount of these very small plastic particles in the ocean. And the question of what their impact is still out there, but we know that they're definitely not supposed to be there.
The whole idea that plastic is on the beach, I think, is sometimes we just kind of get oblivious to it. We don't see a lot of it. I know the local people often think, oh, we don't really have a problem here. It must be other places.
It's an awful feeling to see the pollution on the beach because we have the most beautiful beaches in the world here, and the ecosystem is so wonderful. And then to see all the garbage washed up.
The beaches that Bandon has, they're well known, and they're polluted just like any other beach. There's nowhere on earth that you can go and not see debris on a beach.
Hello, everybody. I'm Angela Haseltine Pozzi. You might have seen some of my work in the gallery next door at Art 101. I am really excited you came out on this extremely rainy night. It shows real dedication with the pouring down rain. We are here for the Washed Ashore project, and it's an idea I had where we can pull off plastic from the beaches and styrofoam and things that you'll see as you're walking down the beach, bringing them into Art 101, washing them off, processing them, and turning them into art supplies. And I need your help. So I am hoping that you will participate in this community art project where we're going to be building things together, and bring your friends, and we will build giant fish and giant birds and make glorious works of art. And these are going to be part of a touring exhibit that is going to be up in Newport and travel on and on and on, we hope. I heard about this grant, and it was all about the community working together towards things in the arts, and I thought, boy, that's what I want to do. Our first job is to get the art supplies. We really can't get anywhere until we have the supplies in hand, and we don't know what's going to be washing in. It's all what's washed ashore is what this whole project is about. And I thought, well, let's do something where we get people to pick up garbage off the beach and get them involved and wash stuff off and pick things up and build stuff with it and do a show. And then I got really excited about it. I'm like, this is a really good idea. I think I'll, I was just, once I started, I was like, whoa. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide up, and some people are going to be looking for little tiny things, little tiny pieces of plastic way up at the shore, possibly in some of the creeks. And then you're all looking for everything, but we need to be picking up bottles. Remember about picking up bottles and then stuffing the little things inside, because those are hard to put in bags. And a lot of this stuff will be in the log. You may not see any trash at all, but if you go way up next to the cliffs, that's where it's going to be deposited. When I just kept seeing plastic on the beach, I just thought, what's going on? And I started doing research and realized that people just weren't seeing it, that I needed to get them to see it, and in a way that they could not ignore it. Some of the types of plastic you'll be finding on the beach are lots and lots of styrofoam. It's very lightweight, so it flows on up very high up near the bluffs. You'll find big chunks of plastic and lots of plastic lids. And you'll find lots and lots of little tiny pieces that get mixed in with the grasses and the pieces of wood that are basically in the rack line. That's where the waves come up and kind of deposit things. All of this, these little teeny tiny pieces of plastic. They're so small, it's even hard to pick them up. You can see in some of these pieces, we've got animals that are eating the plastic. The fish are taking bites out of it. The birds are feeding the lids to their young.
These birds are exposed to lots of the debris that people generate that goes out to sea, and because in the past, years and years ago, before we started making plastic, these animals could eat pretty much anything that they found out there, and ingestion or passing it through their body wasn't a problem. Now, anything that they pick up out there could potentially, if it's not organic, be a cause of blockage in their body. Those things might not necessarily move through their digestive tract. Gradually, small bits will build up, and the more that's going to occupy their digestive tract, the less chance they're going to be able to pass important nutrients from the food items that are actually having a harder time making it into their body. They're going to have a hard time processing nutrients, and eventually birds do die as a result.
So I have people that say they don't believe the fish are eating this stuff. And we pick up these pieces all the time. This is really clear evidence that they're eating plastics. They're great big bite marks. We have crabs that are eating, you can see with little tiny bites. They're chewing away at it. They're also eating flip-flops and pecking away at it. You see bird peck marks in a lot of the styrofoam. So instead of being depressed about it, we're going to start changing our way of thinking and looking at it as, wow, that's a really cool yellow piece of art supply. That's going to be a great coral reef that we might build or something. So we're going to try to think differently and use them as art supplies instead of just garbage.
Entanglement is basically when a marine animal gets caught in some type of debris, usually around its neck or its body. So for example, with stellar sea lions, we see primarily neck entanglements. They get caught with bands, plastic bands around their necks. These bands are found on bait boxes when fishermen take bait boxes out to sea. And they're also found on all kinds of different office equipment boxes. You'll see them at different stores and things like that. So one of the best things people could do would be to just cut a band if they have a full band like this, and that'll at least prevent an animal becoming entangled in that. They also become entangled in nets, trawl nets, and so lots of different items that are floating out in the ocean.
One of the things we're doing tonight is we're going to work on the fish scales, and basically we're using the flat pieces of plastic that you will find when we do our sorting. And then what we are going to do is we're going to arrange them onto these pieces of wire mesh, and we are going to drill holes and wire them on. In order to turn all these things into art supplies, first we have to wash them and, we rinse them off, we soak them in biodegradable soap, we then sort them by colors, and the color scheme is really important. That starts making them look like art supplies, and each animal has its own color scheme. So we divide it up by animals and then types. We test the plastic, if it's brittle or not, and then we drill and stitch, thread, or weave everything. And then I'm using everything. I made that decision early on to show the mass quantities of the stuff that's on the beach. We use everything.
We need to raise awareness. Everybody needs to know that there is tons of plastic on the beach. Even folks that live on the coast don't necessarily go to the beach and see all this debris down there. And I think that's maybe the first step in curing the problem, is to let everybody know what's going on.
The problem with plastics when it breaks down is it doesn't really break down. It only goes down to the molecular size, and there it stays. And it exudes its toxicants forever, as far as I know.
And these are compounds that the plastic is manufactured with and are in the plastic and then leach out of the plastic when it's in the ocean. And bisphenol A and phthalates are another kind of plasticizer, and those have been found in the environment.
So let's see, how does it get there? It's wearing on other surfaces, like sand is made. The UV rays of the sunlight breaking down the chemical bonds. But as it's breaking down, the surface area increases. The contact surface area with, say, the water or the animals that eat it, it's where the chemicals come out of. So as the surface area grows, more chemicals can come out, and it breaks down into little pieces.
The transmission of pollutants by this material. It's a sponge for oily pollutants, so these little bits become poison pills, so to speak, and transmit pollutants through the food webs.
And those are what are called persistent organic pollutants. DDT is the most famous one. PCBs are another one. And those were put in the environment historically and are very, very persistent, even though we don't make them and dump them anymore. They're still all around out there, and plastic concentrates them.
On the surface of these little bits of plastics, you find concentrations that are 1 million times that found in the ambient seawater. So, then the animals eat those and they've got this dioxin in them.
One thing our aquarium does, and what I try to do in all of my programming when I create it, is to have a very clear conservation message for the general public, for visiting school groups. It's always a part of any of our academic programs or lab classes. If you can inspire people to have some sense of wonder about the world and create a connection between animals and what's here at the aquarium and what they see out on the beaches, then they're more inclined to take action. So doing an art installation on marine debris would fit right in with the conservation messages of the aquarium.
One of the most important parts of this project is really to connect with school children and with the younger population that is basically going to live with this marine debris issue the rest of their lives. We've got this sad, sad thing that's happening out there in the oceans with all the junk that's washing up. And we've got stuff like this that's actually all off of Bandon's Beach.
I think kids are naturally curious, so it's a great time to get them motivated and aware of the problems, and they can learn what they can do to help that and remedy it. And they get excited about things, and I think as adults we tend to get more depressed about it and kind of feeling like we're so overwhelmed there's not a whole lot we can do, and I think kids don't have that in them yet. So it's a great time to get them motivated.
The bottles are the most common thing that are washing ashore. They're everywhere. And the thing that's so cool about these is that they make great jellyfish tentacles. Very simply, I'm going to show you how you do that. You just take big heavy scissors, chop off the bottom. We're going to use this, and then we're going to be threading these. Now, since jellyfish have a lot of different parts to them, we will use these in one way or another. We'll sort of have to wait and see. Real simple. So what we're basically doing is we're going to try to bring that pile of bottles way down, and we're going to attach these over here to the center of the jellyfish.
I've been picking up garbage, and I've been getting my friends to pick up garbage.
Animals are dying left and right from swallowing it. Marine animals are dying. It's just wrong.
And I've been making scales for the fish, and now I'm making a jellyfish tonight.
One of the things that we discovered that really was disturbing when we were investigating the situation that we have in the Pacific was the number of marine animals that are suffering from eating plastic, particularly bottle caps. We found some rather gruesome images of birds, albatross, other seabirds that were laying on their beach where they had died, and they're literally full of plastic. No room for any other nourishment.
Because when the plastic starts to break down, it looks like food to them, so they eat it. And so do the birds, because they don't know any better. And we collect the bottle caps here because it's better than everything dying.
So we got the idea that we could collect bottle caps because they aren't being recycled in our community. They would prefer we take them off before recycling the bottles. And if they get tossed aside, the chance is pretty high that it's going to get washed down our storm drains, and that's how it ends up in our ocean.
We're here with a bunch of 5th graders at Helen Farr's class, and they're doing a reenactment of how plastics get into the ocean from the land. And they're having a good time making their own film here.
Action.
Okay, good.
Didn't want to get in front of this camera.
Okay, they need to slide. Yeah, roll the camera.
Forward just a little. That's good.
Okay.
Don't touch,
don't move.
don't touch anything.
Don't touch anything. Okay, Helen.
Keep it high. Keep it high. That looks better.
Dump it.
Dump it out. I think mine needs to be on the other side. Oh my God! Come over now. Yay!
Hold on to it. Hold on to it.
Urban runoff is a big problem. We found 2.3 billion pieces in 3 days of sampling coming from the Los Angeles and San Gabriel rivers that drain the Los Angeles watershed. So they weighed 30 tons, 2.3 billion pieces. That's a lot of trash going into the ocean.
All the stuff that you're seeing today all came off of Bandon's Beach. And what's happening is our world has changed in the last 50 years from using glass and wood and some biodegradable products to using plastic. So what we're doing is this project where we're doing all these different art projects that combine into an exhibit.
I'm fascinated by community art. I think it's essential to community development and people's sense of self-worth and loving where they live and trying to clean up where you live and then make community art out of it ties everything together.
I think it's really cool. It's really original. You wouldn't think, you'd think pick it up off the beach and throw it away in a trash can, but you wouldn't think where it goes after that. But if you turn it into art, it's going to be something that isn't thrown away and polluting anymore.
Anytime you pick stuff up, drop it by Art 101 and just throw it over the fence.
So we can do it
anytime. Boy, it's a lot of weight, isn't it? People don't take action when they're feeling hopeless and depressed, so there really has to be a shift to the positive. And when people volunteer for Wash to Shore, they know they're making a difference, and that offers hope. I started doing my whole See Things art work kind of right as my husband Craig started not doing real well. He started having some problems and we didn't know what was going on. For about 8 years he was told he was having panic attacks and he was having these what he called mini seizures, and he went back and tried to get help. He switched doctors, didn't see like he was getting help. They kept giving him Paxil and said, you know, take some of these and come back and see us. And oh, don't worry about things so much. You know, those are just panic attacks. So, well, all of a sudden, in December 2001 and New Year's Eve, he just collapsed and had intense headaches, and we rushed off to the hospital, and they were doing these kind of, you know, these tests like this and stuff. I didn't know what they were doing. And so, well, you go have some breakfast with your daughter. He needs to have a CAT scan. Came back from breakfast and the emergency room doctor said, you better sit down, I have bad news. He said, your husband has a brain tumor, it's bleeding in the brain, he needs emergency brain surgery. You need to gather your things together. I've called the neurosurgeon and, you know, he needs to go into emergency surgery. And I just was like, what? I'll never forget the moment that the surgeon came in, wonderful surgeon. She came into the, into the ICU where he was, and his head was all wrapped up, and he was conscious and talking, and this is a few days after surgery, and she said, so, how are you feeling? And he said, I feel great. I haven't had any of those panic attacks like I did before surgery. And she said, those weren't panic attacks. Those were seizures from your brain tumor. It was like this big lead ball just landed in the room, and you know, that whole realization of how could it be that all of those years. But she also in that same discussion said, you know, you'll be lucky if you have 5 years to live. So both Craig and I were like, well, then let's just live what we've got here as best we can. We tried to get our life back together, and then in November 2003, out of the blue, while he was at school, he had a massive hemorrhagic stroke, and our whole world just fell apart. And he was in nursing homes and hospitals, rehab centers, ICUs, everything for a solid year. And I was by his side. I didn't think he would die. I really didn't. But he didn't make it. And I came to the lake. I came to Bandon to heal. Somehow or another, this project connects with him so much that because it's here in Bandon, where this is the place we had our honeymoon, this cabin. Craig's ashes are scattered in this lake, and it's on this ocean shoreline. You know, he was there with me the day I found the first piece of plastic. I did get back in my studio. And I did some work and I had some shows and kind of got myself going again. And I felt like I had to get something of what I'd gone through into my work, and wasn't really sure how to do it. In my walks along the beach, I'd been picking up just the interesting pieces. So I would pick up like a really cool buoy or something that, you know, had a really twisted shape, and I was using those in my work and attaching things to them, like things that were washed ashore that had sea creatures already attached. And I had actually started that. It sort of started creeping into my work. In 2008, I did this touring exhibit. It was kind of like I finally said, I'm coming back into the art world. And I did this bioluminescent sea cave. And then a whole series called Undetermined Species. And I started using marine debris during that time. I realize now that I'm doing the Washed Ashore project, and I'm able to look at all this garbage and see potential in life and in garbage, because that's kind of what happened to me.
When Angela was first writing the grant, she got in touch with us and asked if there was a way we'd like to be involved. And of course, we welcomed the opportunity, because for one reason, this is our environment, and Earth Day, taking care of the earth every day, has always been a priority for us. And so we want to teach awareness about taking care of the earth and pollution where it shouldn't be, and what kids can do about that. So that really appealed to us.
We're at Ocean Crest Elementary School in Bandon, and this is the Washed Ashore Project in action. This is kids working with the stuff from the ocean and making art out of it. This is my passion. Arts education, environmental education together, and they are having a great time. We're able to have discussions with kids about what belongs on the beach, what doesn't belong on the beach, and what they're going to do about it. And it's pretty cool. We've got kindergartners talking about I shouldn't litter on the beach, and that's what we want to do. We want to get that message across.
I think it's bad that people are doing this for the earth. I mean, I was expecting maybe a little bit, but not all this.
I think it is almost overwhelming that all of this stuff was on the beach. What an awareness for them to know they have a responsibility to take care of our beaches and anywhere on our earth.
Well, my mom does like to take my dog for a walk on weekends, so I'm gonna ask if I can go with her, and if I find any of this stuff, I'm probably gonna either take it home and try to create something out of it or recycle it.
As we speak, the welding class already has the drawings for the giant fish. They're going to be constructing it as one big fish. It's going to be 6 feet tall and 12 feet long. So here we've got the drawings for the giant fish that we're still debating about which to do, if we're going to do rebar or if we're going to do tubing.
Well, you're not going to see any of the frame when it's done, is that correct?
Yeah, you're not going to.
It'll all be totally covered up.
Well, and that's part of the trick. It has to be really aesthetically beautiful and be able to be covered up. And if we're going to take it apart, we've got to be able to cover up those hinges or the the parts that are
But your
bolted
plastic
together.
will be woven onto the outside of the structure.
Right.
So that you won't see any of the steel inner structure.
True.
Right.
You can see we've really made some progress on the jellyfish. And this is only the inside of the jellyfish. The outside of the jellyfish is going to be made with the other part of the bottles. That's all made with bottles and plastic bags and scraps of plastic.
This turtle is basically Angela's design, but I'm an artist as well. We're all contributing our artistic contributions to it as well. And I just think that's really exciting.
One of the other aspects of this show is to be getting the community involved, getting older senior citizens involved. I mean, I've had really fantastic response in the community from the Lions Club, from the Rotary Club. Okay, so we'll start with that, and we washed it off. This is what I had. Letting people realize that this isn't just a little group of people, but everybody's invited, and everyone can pick up junk off the beach and bring it to Art 101 and, you know, participate in that way, or, you know, getting people to come out for workshops. That's just really important. Again, it's the accessibility of the project, and it's not just an exhibit, it's a project about changing one's ways. Instead of picking up agates and picking up shells and fossils, which need to stay on the beach, how can we get them to pick the things up off the beach that shouldn't be there? So that's why I decided to really go at it from the art angle.
We have a number of beach cleanup projects, but then what do you do with the garbage afterwards? And this is a fantastic tool, not only for marketing the project, but the education of young and old to understand not only that we are creating a serious problem for our children to clean up after us, but that there are applications that we can take this garbage and actually make something out of it.
This is the vertebrae, which is the backbone of the whale. And then all of these things here slide onto this, and then this is suspended in the air, in the gallery. We had so much white plastic coming in. It just kept coming ashore. So I had to figure out what to do with it, and that's how I came up with the whalebone rib cage.
My initial plans for this summer did not involve anything that had to do with washed ashore plastics or otherwise rubbish. I was supposed to be biking across the country, trying to make the East Coast by the end of the summer, but on my way, I ran into Angela. All right, so I'm working on musical starfish here. It's gonna eventually be a large-scale sculpture that will be playable as a musical object. The idea is to maybe blow on the bottles, hit them with objects, but you know, music will come out of this starfish at some point. All right, so here's our technical blueprint. It's kind of this is a rough idea of what's going on. There's gonna be some modifications, but you can get an idea of kind of the layout here. It's going to sit high enough up so that a person can stand in between the arms and, you know, get to the bottles to play them. Maybe lean over to the middle to blow on them, and otherwise jam to their heart's content.
I graduated from Western Illinois University in May, and I was looking for something to further myself in my artistic career. So I began doing research into residencies, and I came across Artula and ended up contacting Angela to get a little bit more information, and she began telling me about the Ashore project itself. And at that time, in my own personal artwork, I was trying to use recycled material and found objects to compose my artwork. So when she began telling me about this, it really drew to me, because I deeply care about the environment and what's being done to it, and it's great to be able to use my artistic talents to further help the environment in whatever way I can.
My name's Aaron Longton. I'm a commercial fisherman right here in Port Orford. I've been commercial fishing for about 12 years now. Had my own boat for 10 of that. Port Orford's a small town here on the Oregon coast. Over 25% of the living wage jobs in this town are attributed to fishing. So, it's really important that we keep that, working for us. We don't have anything else. Everybody here retains all their waste and brings it back to the dumpster and throws it away here. A lot of the fishing gear, of course, is the most economical material is plastic. It has to be light, it has to be buoyant, it has to be strong. You can't get those with metals or wood. I'm sure there's other types of composites and stuff that people are developing, but until they become affordable or there becomes a real effort to make sure that that's what our fishing gear is consisting of, then there's always going to be some amount of plastic discharge, unintended. Again, I think it's for everybody to think big picture and point the finger back at yourself, you know what I mean?
Any solution will have to involve bringing plastic back into the productive apparatus as a reused material. It will have to be recycled like glass, aluminum, and steel, and because it proliferates in every niche in the economy, that's a tremendous challenge. So much of it is use once and toss. And the awareness and the consciousness that the consumer would have would be one of considering those materials precious in order for him to conserve them and put them back where they belong.
But I think we need to understand how this material interacts with the ecosystem. It's something that we're, as human beings, are putting into the environment. And just like anything anthropogenic that we put into the environment, I think we need to understand what we're doing by doing that.
But it's important that people realize that it's in the cities, in the lakes, in the creeks, in their own backyard. It's everywhere.
All these plastics like here that are getting washed onto the beaches, it's just like terrible. Like I never realized how much plastic and bottles and things that they're just being thrown into the ocean like as a just huge dumpster, and that's not what the ocean is. It's not a huge dumpster for people to just dump all plastics into.
We're a long way from getting that vision of the preciousness of our resources and the desperate need to conserve them and put them back into production. Until we have that infrastructure and that awareness, I don't think we can solve the problem.
wonderful to have Angela Haseltine Pozzi's show here. I'd like to introduce Angela and have her talk to you about Washed Ashore. Angela Haseltine Pozzi.
Thank you very much. The first thing I have to say is this really isn't just my show. Hundreds and hundreds of volunteers, school kids, and 5 different school districts, all in the Coos-Curry County area down in Southern Oregon, have helped put this show together. And right here today we have a few of those volunteers. Would those volunteers who helped put this thing together please step forward over here? I need anybody who has put in hours. Come on, up here. This has been a project that I have dreamed of the last couple of years, and to see it here with the massive amount of help of everybody is just spectacular. And basically all this is garbage off of our beaches, and this is happening all around the world. It's not just in one area. Wherever the currents really catch and deposit garbage, this is a terrible thing that's happening to our oceans. And what we're all committed to doing, and all these people care deeply about because they've put hours in, is to bring this message to the world through the arts. And that's what our Tula Institute for Arts and Environmental Education is all about. And we're hoping that this message carries forward, and this is a touring exhibit, and we can go all across the world. And that's what this is all about, is to bring the message forward through the arts.
This is impressive. I've always been kind of dismayed by the amount of garbage I'm seeing on the beaches, but to see somebody do something like this that's both beautiful and alarming at the same time.
I had no idea that was there, and the flip-flops and all those kinds of things that we don't think about. But yeah, it's probably a better way to get our attention than if they just walked us around and showed us a pile of it.
I started working with the project in January, and we started working on fish scales, and I just couldn't imagine how she was going to pull it all together. And then I went away for a little while, and when I came back, she had the fish scale figured out, she had started a jellyfish, she had started the gyre, and I just couldn't believe all that had happened.
We are so proud and honored to have this show start here at the Visual Arts Center. Oregon Coast Council for the Arts hopes that this show will travel up and down our coast and travel really across this country, and hopefully this message and possibly this show can travel around the world.
These sculptures are just, some sculptures. It's the idea that we want to continue with, and yeah, these sculptures can travel, but to go somewhere else and have other people build sculptures and just to bring awareness. I mean, the fact that I'm hearing people say just behind me, I didn't realize it was so bad, and having them realize it is so bad, and yeah, you do something more about it, go do something, do whatever you can. Not just make art, but, pass a new law, make people be aware of their use of plastics. We're finishing up the Newport Visual Arts Center show. It was extended an extra month, which was pretty cool. And then we're taking it down and transferring it just across town over to the Oregon Coast Aquarium, which is also in Newport. The aquarium offers us a really amazing venue. I mean, we'll be having our sculptures right next to these giant fish tanks and, all these fish and sharks. And so the message will be even, I think, a little more powerful in that it's not just seen as an art show, but really as an educational and environmental and marine biology connected exhibit, so that people will make a really direct connection. Oh, the fish are living with this stuff in the ocean, and we're making this stuff in the ocean. So that's exciting to me. I love the idea of being in aquariums so that we can make those connections visually with people. So this one is purposely put at the front of the zoo because you can see it from really far away and it stands out as really different from its environment.
Right there on the top. Oh yeah.
So the Washed Ashore exhibit is at the Smithsonian National Zoo here in Washington, D.C., which is phenomenal. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of visitors that come through here every single day, and to be able to have someone from, you know, California or Texas or Indiana or anywhere else within the U.S. like come to the zoo and be able to experience the ocean in a very unique fashion and to see their human impact on the ocean it's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's so much bigger than what you see. That artwork is fantastic as a standalone. Knowing that there's a curriculum behind it is intriguing, and having experienced that curriculum, I'm just wowed.
So just seeing all the teachers come together and teaching, like, you know, partnering with Washed Ashore and seeing these, you know, amazing, turn around, and seeing your amazing sculptures here, and then pairing that with the curriculum to really drive home the messaging of marine debris and how we each play a role in it.
So the whole connection to the Smithsonian happened because, you know, it's often who you know. And there was a volunteer and an educator in Coos County who worked with us, Trish Mace, a wonderful woman, and she brought her family down to Washed Ashore the first year when we started. And then she got a job at the Smithsonian. And she told everyone at the Smithsonian as a marine educator about Washed Ashore and got them excited about it because, you know, she brought pictures and said, you got to see this stuff, it's really great. And then she asked me to make an education kit for the Ocean Hall. And so I created a little fish named Owen. People are like, this is really great. And they kept getting such great attention on it. So Trish suggested that maybe we should be having a piece in this changing exhibit case. The Smithsonian is a big, big, big institution, and you know they have lots and lots of people involved and lots of bureaucracy. So it took a really long time. I mean, like 2 years to get through that, and then they were excited about the National Zoo having the art exhibit there and knew that they were going to have all of our giant sculptures. So they thought, well, maybe we should get a giant sculpture over here, and then that didn't happen. And so they said, well, maybe we should do that display case. I'm like, yeah, let's do that. I'd be happy to do that. So it's very small, so I did all of it myself. And I also was very, very picky about the detail and the craftsmanship. But I wanted it to be highly educational, and I wanted it to be an educational tool for all of their marine educators, and about plastic pollution and about all sorts of issues with animals and sea turtles and sea jellies and coral reef bleaching and all of that. So in the middle of making this, I'm like, it has to teach, it has to teach, it has to teach. So I'd be making something beautiful, and then I'd say, that's too beautiful. The thing next to it better really teach really well. And so I tried to balance that really beautiful and highly crafted to something really obvious that you could recognize and something that taught you something. So it was really a fun and very intense creation. But it was really rewarding because I hadn't done my own artwork that was all my own in so long.
I'm Nicola Pozzi, and I'm Angela Pozzi's daughter, and I am so proud of my mom and all the work she's done. It's amazing how far she's come.
I think it's beautiful what she made out of trash. It's sad that all this is in the oceans, for sure, but it's a beautiful exhibit.
So in this piece, I named the turtle after my mother, Angela Haseltine, because she was just an amazingly brilliant artist and a supportive mom. And she always said to me, You can do anything you set your mind to. A lot of time has gone by since I started Washed Ashore, and a lot of things have changed for me personally as well as for the organization. And one way that's changed is we have the amazing Frank Rocco on our team. I'd just taken down the exhibit and I was packing it up and working really hard and had been doing a lot of hard labor and was just tired of always eating fast food and moving fast. And it was like my last day there, and I said, I'm going to treat myself to a really nice meal at this fancy Italian restaurant right next to the hotel. And so I went into where the bar is next to the restaurant, and I sat down. I had a beautiful meal, I had a glass of wine, and I chatted with some people there. And this stool next to me came available, and it was about 9:30 at night, and this handsome man came and sat down next to me and ordered a double espresso and a grappa. And I said to him, "You must be Italian." He says, "As a matter of fact, I am."
And those were the first words I heard. And it just, from there on, it was we just talked a lot and just chatted, and I learned about Washed Ashore and Angela, and we next met on the beach the next day with my puppy, and just went on from there. We were offered this place here in the town in Bandon. It all kind of worked together, and it gave us a big gallery and workshop area where we were able to draw in many more volunteers and more tourists.
Thousands of
and
people.
A lot more tourists who were just passing by, if you will.
I mean, we've had, in the last 6 years, we've had over 8,000 volunteers working with us making sculptures. It's just phenomenal. And just thousands of people. And we were able to also bring in school kids and field trips. And we use this as an exhibit hall as well as a workshop space. And now we're branching out into having a real consumer education gift shop so that people can learn about how to make a difference with their consumer choices and buy products that are actually going to help reduce plastic consumption. When I first started Washed Ashore, I basically did everything, and now I have this incredible team of people that are really helping us reach our potential.
One of my key goals as marketing director for Washed Ashore was to take the community-based concept and turn the sculptures into a very, very powerful traveling exhibit that would move throughout the nation and ultimately throughout the globe, presenting, the issue of pollution in the oceans in a way that everyone could feel that they were both part of the problem and part of the solution.
When we came on board, we had 1 full-time employee and 2 part-time employees. Now we're at about 10 full-time employees and about 2 part-time.
My favorite part of my job is, I can't even say that I love it all, is I get to go and work with businesses who want to partner with us and offer discount rewards for volunteers who spend their time at Washed Ashore. We have over 50 local right here in Bandon that offer a discount for your time at Washed Ashore, and depending on the time that you give will determine the discount that you receive.
As educational director, it's my job to ensure the content that accompanies our exhibit has the best possible scientific information and is written in a way that reaches as broad an audience as possible. I help to design the curriculum that we have recently created in partnership with NOAA. I help to create our educational signage and also to design the activities that are used at exhibit sites and Washed Ashore venues.
I used to go to high school in Brookings, which is about an hour and a half south of Bandon. So it was really wonderful to see Wash Ashore happening so close to where I grew up, and it was definitely a motivator for me to come back to the area and volunteer my time here and become part of the project as an artist and someone who's been actively involved in marine debris up in Alaska. This took two things I was very passionate about and combined them into one thing that I felt like I could really, get behind and make a difference doing. So,
Wash Ashore is always looking for like-minded companies or corporations to partner with that really share the same kind of mission as Wash Ashore, and Norix is really a company that does that. Their mission is to really drastically reduce chemical and plastic usage in the home.
It started almost as a research project to try to learn more about plastic pollution, the problem, and really asking ourselves if we could be part of the solution somehow. And in doing that research, we actually came across Angela and Wash Ashore, and were so excited about their mission of trying to bring education and awareness about plastic pollution to people using artwork. So loved the idea, really felt like it was a great match for our mission, which similarly is about everybody being able to do even one little thing together that makes a huge difference.
We are sorting the bottle tops into the different colors. They're used for polka dots and different accents on the artwork that Amy puts together.
It's very eye-opening to me to see the space here and all of the trash receptacles and everything else, and seeing that truly what the plastic problem, and seeing these gigantic pieces of daily life that we are all surrounded by, and how it's affecting our environment and our oceans. And so for me personally, just really being more conscientious about the glass usage and everything else like that is just, it's crazy to see all this.
For me, I have two small sons, so I think leaving a legacy and teaching the next generation is part of why I took the Norix job.
So I'm standing here in front of Henry the fish, who is about 6.5 years old, and he's had some major plastic surgery because we learned things over the years that made our work better and better. And really, all of our sculptures are an example of how everyone working together can make big things happen. And that's really exciting to me. And that is a huge part of who Wash Ashore is. We've worked with over 10,000 volunteers, processed over 20 tons of garbage, and made over 65 sculptures. And that only happens with everyone working together and everyone knowing that their every action counts. And that's a really, really great thing. And we need more examples of that in the world. And I'm really proud that Wash Ashore offers that example.
I have always felt really badly, personally, that our generation has done so little to help the environment and done so much to hurt it.
It's something I've never really thought about, that I would ever be involved with something that really can be worldwide.
Something needs to be done, and if it's not up to all of us and doing all our little contribution, it's a big problem that's not going to be resolved.
I mean, this is a really little thing that we've done, but at least it's something.
It may not happen tomorrow, but nothing happens tomorrow. You have to get the kids involved, get them thinking about it, and similar to the way we changed things when we were kids, when we saw what our parents were doing, we did things differently, and the kids are going to do things differently.
Each person that changes makes a difference, and it's certainly having a ripple effect. And I don't think I'm the only one that's refusing to buy plastic water bottles anymore.
At least it's a positive thing instead of just going out and saying, oh my God, look at all the garbage. It's too big, nobody can do anything. I give up.
I just have never been much of an activist person. I haven't been a political person. And I can't not be now. I mean, there's, with this awareness, I just you know, have to care. How can anybody not?
And what we did out there was we didn't give up.
I would just say to anybody watching, do something. Do something. Don't watch this movie and then just go back to your world, and don't let it have an impact. If it means not buying a water bottle, don't buy a plastic water bottle. If it means buying a metal container, buy one. Whatever it is, just do it. Just do it, because the world is not going to improve if we don't individually take responsibility for it.
The one part of this project that we're still developing and that we're really seriously going to be developing this next few years is creating satellite projects, which means taking what we've learned to do in Bandon, Oregon, and doing that some other part of the world or some other part of the country. And instead of, you know, bringing our garbage over there to make sculptures with, that we actually have other people in other parts of the world pick up garbage off of their beaches, and I train an artist in their community to work like us, and I train a coordinator to process like that, and we share some ideas and designs, and then they create sculptures, and then they tour sculptures that they've created in their land, and then that sparks more people to know more about the whole marine debris issue. And that's really what this has to happen. I mean, in order to reach the whole globe, that's the only way we can do it. And to really, the whole point of Washed Ashore is to grab people's attention so you can educate them about marine debris and about what's happening in our oceans and plastic pollution in the ocean, and it's how it's harming animals. The only way we get that message across is to create more art and grab more attention and have it spread like that. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to run out of art supplies. I think they're just going to keep coming in. And you know, and the whole secession program of, I mean, that's why I started a nonprofit, is you give it all away. It's not about you owning it, and it's not about you. It's about the service and the message and what you're doing to make the world a better place. That's what it's all about. So I'm working towards it. It's a long process. It's longer than I thought it would be, and you know, I have no idea what retirement would look like, but there might be a point when I like to do less and have more people do more. So I don't get sad about it. I get excited about that. I like the idea of it. You know, sending your babies out there and letting them do their thing, and sending this project out there and let it do its thing without me.